This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore.
Donald Trump's rhetoric is targeted. Donald Trump's rhetoric is not by accident. He doesn't just get up there and start going off the cuff. It may seem like an impromptu, unplanned ranting and raving of a madman. In large part it is, but there is a strategy, an overarching strategy and method involved in what he does. He's not unaware of the passions that he inflames. And this weekend at one of his dum-dum rallies, one of his QAnon rallies, his gathering of the worshipful to shower adoration onto their dear leader, Donald Trump, he talked about the largest crowd. He venerated the crowd that was the most filled. He talked about the crowd that never gets talked about, that really the one he's the most fond of. And it just so happens to be the January 6th crowd, where he speaks highly of their motivations and what they were protesting. And all of this, look, a lot of this is going to be overlooked by the media as just an offhanded comment. It might not even be talked about in mainstream media. But this is the beginning of not only, we've witnessed the legitimizing or the attempted legitimizing of the January 6th insurrection, the attempted overthrow of the government by overturning a free and fair election. We've witnessed that over the course of the last year and a half. This, though, is moving forward with a potential presidential candidate, an ex-president of the United States, who is legitimizing what took place and going to campaign on it as this is the way you handle your disagreements about whatever takes place. Where he is whipping them into a frenzy in their support of what took place on January 6th. Watch this remarkable moment from Donald Trump. Even for Donald Trump, remarkable.
I never knew the cameras, because this took place right from, they never want to show how massive our crowd was. You know the biggest crowd I've ever seen? January 6th. And you never hear that. It was the biggest, and they were there largely to protest a corrupt and rigged and stolen election. It's the biggest crowd, and you never hear that. And you see very...
He says the largest crowd was January 6th. They cheer. They cheer. Any reasonable person that watched what took place on January 6th live on television, the sacking of the United States Capitol, the temple of our democracy, the people's house, they were shocked and appalled by what took place. Now, we've seen hundreds, nearly 1,000 arrests, court case after court case, guilty verdict after guilty verdict after guilty verdict. Seditious conspiracy charges have been leveled against individuals in the planning of the insurrection. It hasn't yet reached higher than the chief dum-dum of the Proud Boys and the chief dum-dum of the Oath Keepers, but it's inching that way. And Donald Trump wants to venerate that. And they cheer. They watched the same thing you and I did. They watched the same event. Cops being beaten. Violence. Pepper spray. Trump flags waving, Christian flags waving, Confederate flags waving. But Donald Trump wants to act like they were there legitimately protesting what he describes as a corrupt, a rigged, and a stolen election. They've brought zero evidence that this has been the case. Zero. Not an iota. Not an inkling of evidence. Yet they say it unchecked to the throngs who cheer and worship at the throne, aka lectern, of Donald Trump. They are setting us up once again for the same thing to take place. That is what this is. This is preemptive. Because when it happens again, he's going to deny, I did nothing wrong. I didn't do anything. I didn't incite a mob. I didn't foment insurrection. But he's doing it right before our eyes, and the media is asleep. If not for some of the people on Twitter who clip these clips out and put them online, we might not know. Because regular decent Americans, regular decent liberals, regular decent leftists are not paying attention to every word spoken at these rallies. But you know who is? Regular Republicans. They hang on every word spoken by this menace. They worship him like a god. He can do no wrong. He can shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and not lose a single voter. That is where we are. As much as they whine and complain about the mistreatment and the maltreatment of Republicans, they are standing for it. And it's going to happen again. And you will be aware of it because you watch other sources of news than your typical sponsored corporate media. You watch independent sources, like me and others. It's time to be ready. What do you think about all this? I'd love to know. You can call, leave me a brief voicemail, 714-576-4054. You can also email me daily@dollemore.com. I would love to hear from you. I am on social media at Dollemore, just about everywhere. At Dollemore is where you can find me. I'd love to connect with you there. And if I do something for you that brings you value, I've said this a lot, I say it a lot, I'll continue to say it a lot. If there's someone else out there on this platform that does more for you, that you appreciate more, that brings you more value, support that person. If it's a Packman, if it's a Farron Cousins, if it's a Jeff Waldorf, somebody like that, support that person. But if I am your flavor of political commentator, please consider supporting my work, helping produce this show, helping buttress our democracy against these ne'er-do-wells that I talk about on an almost daily basis. You can click the join button below, become a channel member for as little as $1.99 a month, just pennies a day, or you can go over to patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast. Both those are great ways to help support what I do right here. As you know, I am in 8 days going in for surgery to eradicate my colon cancer, and I will be back a couple of weeks after that. I would ask that you show my guest host, Brittany Page, who is my wife and co-host of my podcast, show her the love and respect that you do me, and support the channel while I'm away. That would be fantastic. I love you guys. I appreciate you very much. I'll see you next time. Until I do, be genuine. Take care of one another.